We are an emergency hospital for injured wild animals. It's a very complex organization because from the outside, you find a baby animal, you call us, we tell you, yeah, it should come in, so you make the trip over here with the animal. Our admit staff is trained to help you with that. That animal then goes back into the treatment room. We have 5 full-time veterinarians on staff, so that means that every single animal, even if it's a baby mouse, will be examined by a vet, and then who's also skilled in wildlife medicine. Then that animal, if it survives that vet exam, then it goes back into one of our wards. And in those wards, we have volunteer crews who come in and clean the cages for the animals, do basic husbandry. And then the animal can be with us, from a couple of days to 6 months. That's kind of what the average day looks like. We don't have a typical customer. And then we also don't know what we're going to see. We know we're going to see robins and bunnies and squirrels, but last year we admitted 200 different species of animals. And sometimes we'll get something in that we haven't seen in 15 years. The busiest time of year is the spring months. Just in May and June this year, we admitted 6,000 animals, so almost half of our patients came in the 2-month period. And those tend to be the typical backyard animals, rabbits and squirrels and robins, as I mentioned, mallards. But then it gets so that the 2 migration seasons in fall and spring are also major times for us, particularly with adult animals. So we get a lot of birds in that are unfamiliar with their surroundings. They're migrating from Bolivia and they hit a window when they're in Brooklyn Park. It happens, and and that's where we get all the variety of different species too. We'll have 30 different kinds of warblers that will come in a year. Warblers are very tiny songbirds, and many of them live in South America and actually even pass through here on their way to Canada and other northern parts where their nesting is. We also have a pretty strong winter season because there's a couple things that happen. We get a lot of turtles in the summer, but turtles heal very slowly. So unless we can release them again by October, we're going to have to overwinter them. So we'll have them here, and they take a lot of work and they're hard to care for, and we'll have them for 6 months. We'll have them through that winter period. The other thing that we see are a lot of large migratory birds, trumpeter swans, pelicans, geese, mallards, that they get by fine during the summer and the fall when the water's open, but suddenly everything freezes up, all their buddies fly away, and they're on this lake obviously injured. In those cases, we'll either overwinter those birds, or sometimes we work with other rehabbers down the Gulf Coast area, and we'll actually fly them from here down to the Gulf Coast. We really feel strongly that our goal is to get animals back into the wild. But one of the things that we do notice is there's a lot of interest in wildlife medicine in vet schools. There's not very much curriculum. So working with others, we've actually provided curriculum to vet schools around the country. Our veterinarians are involved in national organizations that do travel around giving lectures. We do some things here as well. But probably our core education program is for veterinary students. And we also have a vet internship program for actually minted vets who want to delay, they know they're going to do cats and dogs for the rest of their life, but they want to do something more interesting in that first year out of vet school. So they'll work for us for a year. We're funded entirely by donations from the public, from the little kid who saves his change to some of the region's best philanthropists. We're funded across the board. Can always use more support, and as we get into this next stage of capital campaign, as we try to realize our vision for a broader organization, we're going to need more support at that point. So we have about 600 active volunteers, and each in the summertime we have 84 different shifts of volunteers each week. So in each of those shifts has 6 or 7 people on it. It goes to show how important volunteers are to us and how these shifts work. And that also there's a lot of different options. Somebody can come in and just take care of turtles, or they can do what we call our ACC crew, our adult animal crews, and that's a year-round thing, and they get vaccinated for rabies and all of that sort of stuff so they can deal with other animals. There's short-term programs for caring for mallards. So there's a lot of different options, but the volunteers, really, we couldn't do what we do without their support and help. One of the big questions people always have is what happens to the animal that I bring in, and we actually have a process for people that they can send us an email, and we will give them a status report on how the animal did, and we're actually quite transparent too about if it didn't make it, why it didn't make it. And we try to let people know when their animals were released as often as we can. The number one cause of injury that we see is cat attacks. And so keep your cat indoors. It's better for the cat, and it's a lot better for the animals outside. I think all of us at WRC are very proud of what we do. To be able to know that you had an impact, you made a difference every day on lives, whether it's the life of the animal or the people who you helped, or the little kids who were able to participate in that. I think there's almost a spiritual dimension of what we do about caring for the world we live in and making sure that we leave it a better world for our children. And so there's lots of different pieces of that. And I think healthy respect for wild animals has to be one of the foremost things that we think about when we're thinking about our impact and our short time on Earth. And I also think that in our busy lives and civilized world, that we often don't just sit back and take a few moments to really consider how magnificent some of these animals are. It's kind of like, on a dark, starry night, you look up there and you see all those stars, and you realize how insignificant we might seem. It's almost overwhelming. So sometimes if you really sit back and think about that, it can be overwhelming, but then it's also awe-inspiring when you think about the long migratory trips that we have. Watching a squirrel, we have students who come from other parts of the world where they don't have squirrels. They can't take their eyes off of them. They think, this is a magnificent animal. How can this animal exist? So I think that's really what it's such a big part of our lives, and we ought to really take more time to be thankful for that and to really shepherd that resource.